What's the most expensive joke you've ever made? Covering a coworker's car in sticky notes? Ordering pizzas to your arch nemesis's house? Replacing a friend's birth control with breath mints? How about an $80,000 lawsuit? Because that's what happened to comedian Mike Ward, who is in the midst of a years-long court battle for a joke that allegedly violated the Human Rights Code. Now he's taken his case all the way to the Supreme Court. The Canadian Supreme Court. While English-speaking Canadians are known for being polite, well-mannered folks who apologize between mouthfuls of maple syrup, French Canadians take pride in their cultural heritage of being rude assholes with above-average pastries. French Canadian comedians are no different. Ward is an award-winning performer, popular inside and outside of Canada, particularly in French-speaking Quebec. Ward likes to push boundaries with his comedy and frequently receives death threats for his material. He's basically Canada's Frankie Boyle, who is basically the United Kingdom's Jim Jeffries, who is basically the Australian Jim Norton, who is American, but you probably haven't heard of him either. Ward performed a joke criticizing Canadian fragility by mocking its most cherished public figures, like Celine Dion, Celine Dion's husband, and Jeremy Gabriel, or Le Petit Jérémy, then a 13-year-old disabled boy who learned how to sing after surgery restored his hearing. He even sang in front of the Pope, who's kind of a big deal if you've ever heard of a guy named Jesus. Gabriel has Treacher-Collins syndrome, which causes deformity of the skull and can often affect sight or hearing. Ward's joke centered around his confusion that Jeremy's condition wasn't terminal, and in fact the only thing wrong with him was that he was ugly. He added that Jeremy was unkillable and that he had even tried to murder him at the water park himself. But when you hear it out of context as comedian threatens to drown disabled child, it sounds a hell of a lot worse. Gabriel's schoolmates found out about Ward's jokes and allegedly bullied him because of them, and definitely not because he's deaf, disabled, and friends with the Pope. Seeing as Gabriel was incredibly distressed and, a child, his mother decides to complain. Rather than talk to Ward and perhaps rightly call him a dick, in 2012, she requests help from the Human Rights Commission, who brought a case against Ward to the tune of $82,000 in Quebec's Human Rights Tribunal, the court where Canada deals with the very worst crimes against humanity, like labor discrimination, and failure to provide public accommodation, and anything and everything that upsets women with asymmetrical haircuts. According to Ward, the first he ever heard of the complaint was upon being served by the tribunal.
Human rights people saying you owe 80, at first they wanted 82,000. When I got the letter and I saw Human Rights Commission, I thought I was getting an award or a prize or something. Because I do a lot of benefits and stuff I raise money for disabled people. So I was like, fuck, it's about time that they recognize me as a good dude.
The case of a man saying something less than kind about a child was not only taken up by the court, but determined to be a bona fide example of discrimination. In a 2016 decision, the court found in favor of the complainant and ordered Ward to pay $35,000 to Gabriel and $7,000 to his mother for ostracizing Gabriel and damaging his right to dignity and honor, insomuch as a teenager can have access to either. $42,000!
420 hand jobs.
How pricey are your hand jobs? $100 hand jobs? Ward's intent was deemed immaterial. On appeal in 2019, a higher court dismissed the damages awarded to Gabriel's mother, but upheld those awarded to Gabriel himself. Ward started a crowdfunding campaign to help handle the cost of legal fees, now well over $100,000. The Gabriel's legal fees, on the other hand, are covered by the commission. Gabriel likewise crowdfunded an album, which he helpfully mentions at the end of a 2019 interview about the Ward affair, directing the show's audience to the donation page. Now the case is before the Canadian Supreme Court, which is like the American Supreme Court, except all the justices dress like Santa. No, seriously, they all dress like Santa. It looks like like a cheap day at the local mall, you cannot get a hand job from Santa Claus, especially not if Santa Claus is played by Beverly McLaughlin. She's a judge. You do not have a chance with Bev McLaughlin. She has so many better things to do. Please stop sexualizing the Supreme Court. The question before the court: should youth and disability shield a person from public mockery? Should a comedian foresee all the potential consequences of a joke they tell on stage, even the harms caused by other people taking that joke too far? How should we balance the emotional well-being of vulnerable persons against the societal value of artistic expression and social critique? If the case succeeds and Mike Ward ends up on the Supreme Court's naughty list, it might result in vindication for Gabriel, now 24, but it may likewise result in artists silencing themselves for fear of a hefty fine. It opens a large avenue and creates substantial incentive to go after people who say what they think, especially for figures less sympathetic than Le Petit Jérémie. Public figures could silence critical artists on the basis of personal insult. Private citizens could use this to harass anyone who made an unmalicious joke, because intent is no defense. Do we want to live in a society where, at any moment, a joke made in poor taste can result in us losing thousands of dollars, our careers, or our ability to speak our minds? You may want to live in a world where no one stood on a stage and decided to mock a child. But you probably don't want to live in a country where that decision might cost the median income of a family of 4. And if we do care about context, what does it say about a society that responds to a joke about a refusal to accept criticism with fines amounting to the price of a small yacht? It's easy to want censorship when the issue is something you don't care about. It's much harder to step back and ask how these legal principles could be used to silence us in the future. Because here's the hard truth. Every single one of us has a deeply held, deeply unpopular personal belief that we don't deserve to be punished for. And every single one of us has laughed at something inappropriate. Like, if you have lived 10 to 100 years on this earth and you have never laughed at a person who fell down the stairs, you are lying. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, comment, better yet, contact your local politicians and let them know how much you cherish your right to make fun of disabled children. I'm Jessica Peugeot. Thank you for watching.